Robin Williams truly hated her more than anyone. But her wasn't a person. She wasn't a woman who broke his heart or someone he fought with. She was the shadow that lived deep inside him, the sadness that followed him even when the world was laughing. To understand why Robin fought this darkness all his life, we have to go back to where it all began. Before the fame, before the laughter. When he was just a quiet little boy trying to make sense of the world. Robin McLaurin Williams was born on July 21, 1951, in Chicago, Illinois. His father, Robert Fitzgerald Williams, worked as a senior executive at Ford Motor Company, and his mother, Lori McLaurin, was a former model who had a brilliant sense of humor. From the outside, it looked like Robin had everything. He grew up surrounded by comfort and opportunity. His family later moved to Michigan and then to California. He attended private schools, had toys, books, and all the things a child could want. But what Robin didn't have was companionship. He often described himself as a lonely child. His parents were busy, and his home was quiet, so he filled the silence with imagination. He made up voices, invented characters, and acted out stories in his room. That loneliness, that deep need to connect, became the spark that made him one of the greatest performers of all time. In those quiet years, Robin discovered that laughter could make people come closer. It could make them stay. Whenever he saw someone smile because of him, he felt less alone. This simple truth shaped his destiny. He went on to attend Claremont Men's College and later the College of Marin, where he discovered acting. Soon, he was accepted into the Juilliard School in New York City, one of the best acting schools in the world. There, he studied under the legendary John Houseman and trained alongside Christopher Reeve, who would later become Superman. The two men became lifelong friends. Reeve was calm, disciplined, and serious, while Robin was wild, unpredictable, and full of energy. They balanced each other out. But even then, Robin's teachers saw something special in him. He had this incredible ability to switch from humor to heartbreak in a second. Yet that emotional depth came from a very real place. From the sadness that was always hiding behind his jokes. Robin eventually left Juilliard before graduating. The classroom couldn't contain his energy. He needed a stage, a crowd, and freedom. So he started doing stand-up comedy in San Francisco clubs in the mid-1970s. The scene was raw, creative, and rebellious. The perfect place for a young performer trying to find his voice. Robin's act was chaos in motion. He jumped from one character to another, speaking in accents, talking to himself, improvising entire skits on the spot. People had never seen anything like him. He was brilliant, unpredictable, and completely fearless. But with that kind of energy came a cost. He could never stop. Even in private, he had trouble slowing down. His mind raced all the time, filled with thoughts and voices that wouldn't quiet down. He often used humor to cover up how anxious or sad he felt. Then came his big break, a role that changed his life forever. In 1978, Robin was cast as an alien named Mork, from the planet Ork, on the sitcom Mork and Mindy. The show became a cultural phenomenon. His character's innocence and his wild improvisations made audiences fall in love instantly. Week after week, millions tuned in to see what he would do next. The fame was overwhelming. Overnight, Robin went from struggling comedian to household name. But the pressure that came with that success was enormous. He had to keep being Robin Williams, the funny man, the life of the party, the unstoppable force of laughter. And when the cameras stopped rolling, he felt empty. That emptiness, that quiet after the storm, was when she, the sadness he hated, would come back. During these years, Robin also started experimenting with drugs and alcohol. The comedy world in the 1970s and 80s was full of late nights, wild parties, and temptations. He was young, famous, and surrounded by people who wanted a piece of him. But the higher he climbed, the lonelier he felt. Fame didn't heal the hole inside him. It just made it harder to hide. He once said that cocaine was God's way of telling you that you're making too much money. It was a joke, but there was truth in it. He was chasing energy, trying to stay funny, trying to silence the sadness that kept whispering in the background. That inner battle between the light and the dark became the story of his life. Behind the humor, Robin Williams was a man who felt everything deeply. He didn't just act, he absorbed the emotions of the world around him. When friends were hurting, he hurt too. When strangers shared their pain, he carried it. That's what made his comedy so human. It wasn't about making fun of others, it was about connecting. But when you feel that deeply, life can be overwhelming. For Robin, laughter was both a gift and a shield. It made the world love him, but it also hid how much he was struggling inside. And that's why, even from the start, she, the sadness, was always close by. He hated her, he fought her, but he also understood her better than anyone. Because in many ways, she was the reason he could make the rest of us feel so much. As the 1980s rolled into the 1990s, Robin Williams became more than a comedian. He became an artist who could make people cry as easily as he could make them laugh. His film Good Morning, Vietnam in 1987 showed the world that his humor could have heart. He played a radio DJ who made soldiers laugh during the Vietnam War, mixing comedy with tragedy in a way only Robin could. The performance earned him his first Academy Award nomination and proved he was more than just the funny guy from TV. But even while his career was rising higher than ever, the inner battle continued. Fame gave him love from millions of people, but it couldn't fill the emptiness he felt when he was alone. Then came Dead Poets Society in 1989. Robin played John Keating, an English teacher who inspired his students to seize the day. The film became a classic, and Robin's performance touched something deep in everyone who saw it. He wasn't just acting, he was speaking from experience. He knew what it meant to feel trapped by expectations, to want to break free, to live with passion. Behind those words on screen were decades of real pain and wisdom. Audiences didn't just admire him, they felt him. But while his professional life reached new heights, his personal life remained complicated. Robin married 3 times over the course of his life. His first marriage was to Valerie Velarde in 1978, right as his fame began. They had 1 son, Zachary. Robin adored being a father, it gave him grounding and joy. But the pressures of fame, constant travel, and his struggle with addiction began to strain the relationship. The couple eventually divorced in 1988. A year later, Robin married Marcia Garces, who had worked as his assistant and nanny for his son. Together, they built a family and had 2 children, Zelda and Cody. For a time, it seemed like Robin had found peace. He worked closely with Marcia on films like Mrs. Doubtfire and Patch Adams. Their home was full of laughter, creativity, and love. But depression has a way of finding cracks in even the strongest walls. As Robin entered his 40s and 50s, he began to feel the toll of everything: the work, the fame, the expectations. He often talked about how hard it was to always be on, to always make people laugh. When he wasn't performing, the silence scared him. That's when the sadness came back stronger. She whispered that he wasn't good enough, that people only loved the funny version of him, not the real him. To fight her, Robin threw himself into work. He made movies like Aladdin, where he gave life to the genie, one of the most iconic voice performances in film history. His energy seemed endless, but it came from a place of both joy and pain. The genie was funny, kind, and full of heart, everything Robin wanted to be. But behind that performance was a man still searching for peace. He also starred in Hook, Jumanji, The Birdcage, and Good Will Hunting. In Good Will Hunting, he played Sean Maguire, a therapist who helps a young man heal. That role won him an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. His gentle wisdom and compassion in that film reflected the real Robin Williams, the man who always wanted to help others heal, even when he couldn't heal himself. One of his most memorable lines in that movie was, "You're not perfect, sport, and let me save you the suspense. This girl you met isn't perfect either, but the question is whether or not you're perfect for each other." Those words came from a place of truth. Robin understood imperfection, pain, and love better than most people ever could. But even during these years of success, Robin's relationship with her, his inner darkness, never ended. Sometimes she was quiet, letting him breathe and enjoy life. Other times, she shouted so loudly he could barely think. He went through cycles of recovery and relapse, moments of joy and moments of deep sadness. He tried to find peace through family, faith, and helping others. He performed at hospitals, supported charities, and made surprise visits to sick children. Helping others gave him strength. But even then, the sadness waited in the background. By the early 2000s, Robin was older, wiser, but still struggling. His second marriage ended, and he later married Susan Schneider in 2011. Susan loved him deeply and supported him as he faced health issues. But something was changing. Robin began to experience anxiety, confusion, and physical symptoms that doctors couldn't fully explain. He feared he was losing his mind. What he didn't know was that he was suffering from a rare brain disease called Lewy body dementia, which affects movement, memory, and mood. It wasn't just depression, it was a physical illness attacking his brain. He felt trapped inside his own mind, watching the parts of himself he loved slowly fade. That loss of control, that feeling of slipping away, terrified him. Through all this, Robin kept working, kept smiling, kept giving. He still made people laugh, still touched lives, still spread kindness. But the battle inside him was relentless. The woman he hated, that voice of despair, never truly left. She reminded him of every mistake, every fear, every sleepless night. And though he fought with everything he had, the illness and depression eventually overwhelmed him. In August 2014, the world lost Robin Williams. When the news broke, it felt impossible. How could someone who brought so much joy be gone? How could the man who made everyone laugh be so full of pain? The truth is, that's who Robin was, a man who felt everything. The same sensitivity that made him a genius also made him vulnerable. His pain and his comedy came from the same place, his heart. When Robin Williams passed away, the world didn't just lose a comedian, we lost a light, a friend, a piece of our own hearts. His death opened a conversation that people had been afraid to have for too long about mental health, about the cost of fame, and about how even the brightest smiles can hide the deepest pain. People across the world shared their memories, their favorite moments, their favorite quotes. His movies filled television screens again. Clips of his stand-up performances went viral. Fans wrote letters, saying how Robin had helped them survive dark times, how his laughter had given them hope. It was bittersweet, the laughter that had once saved so many couldn't save him. Robin's legacy is one of kindness and connection. He was known for showing up where he was needed most. Children's hospitals, military bases, shelters often without cameras or attention. He wasn't doing it for fame. He did it because he truly cared. He knew what pain felt like, and he wanted to help others escape it, even if only for a moment. Many people who met him described him as humble, gentle, and genuine. He listened more than he talked. When someone spoke to him, he made them feel like the only person in the room. That was his real magic, not just making people laugh, but making them feel seen. Robin's career spanned decades. From the 1970s all the way into the 2010s, he gave the world unforgettable performances: Mrs. Doubtfire, Jumanji, Good Will Hunting, Dead Poets Society, The Birdcage, Patch Adams, Insomnia, and Aladdin. Each role showed a different side of him: the funny, the wise, the broken, the kind. His work wasn't just entertainment, it was therapy for millions of people. Through his characters, Robin taught us to love ourselves, to embrace our flaws, to find beauty in imperfection. He reminded us that laughter doesn't erase pain, it helps us survive it. In interviews, Robin often spoke openly about his battles with addiction and depression. He didn't pretend to be perfect. He used his story to remind people that it's okay to struggle, that even heroes have dark days. He was brave enough to share his truth that sometimes, the funniest people are the ones who are hurting the most. That honesty made people love him even more. After his death, his wife Susan revealed the truth about his illness, that it wasn't just depression, but a complex brain disease that affected his body and mind. Knowing that helped people understand how much he had been suffering silently. But even in his final years, Robin kept creating, kept inspiring, and kept caring. He once said, "I think the saddest people always try their hardest to make people happy because they know what it feels like to feel absolutely worthless, and they don't want anyone else to feel that way." That quote sums up his soul. Robin didn't just perform, he healed people through laughter. Every joke, every smile, every character was his way of giving the world light. And that brings us back to the her. In our story, the one he truly hated, she was the depression, the fear, the voice that told him he wasn't enough. She haunted him his whole life, from his lonely childhood to his final days. But maybe, in a strange way, she was also part of his genius. Without her, he might never have understood the depth of human emotion. Without her, his comedy might never have felt so real. Robin's life was proof that the brightest light often comes from the darkest places. Today, Robin Williams is remembered not just for his roles, but for his heart. He reminded us to be kind, to pay attention, to laugh even when it hurts. His movies still make new generations smile. His words still comfort people who feel lost. His legacy reminds us that laughter and sadness are two sides of the same coin. You can't have one without the other. Robin Williams may have hated the darkness that followed him, but he turned that pain into something beautiful. He gave the world laughter that still echoes years after he's gone. His story teaches us that even the strongest, most joyful souls can struggle silently, and that's why kindness matters more than we think. We never know what battles someone else is fighting. In the end, Robin's story isn't about hate. It's about love. Love for his family, for his friends, for his craft, and for every person who ever needed to laugh. The her he hated was the same force that gave him empathy and creativity. She was his curse, but also his muse. And while she took him away too soon, she could never erase what he left behind: laughter, hope, and heart. So the next time you watch one of his movies or hear one of his jokes, remember the man behind the smile. Remember the courage it took to keep going, to keep giving, to keep laughing through the pain. Robin Williams may have hated her, the sadness that lived inside him, but through his art, he showed the world something greater, that love, laughter, and compassion will always win in the end. Robin Williams was a man who could make the world laugh with just one look, one word, or one unexpected gesture. But behind all the laughter, there was always something deeper, something fragile. He wasn't just a comedian, he was a man searching for meaning, for connection, and for peace in a world that sometimes felt too heavy for someone with a heart as big as his. For more than 20 years, Robin was married to Marcia Garces, a woman who had been both his partner in life and in work. Their relationship had moments of happiness, love, and shared dreams. But it also faced the kind of pressure that comes when fame, personal struggles, and expectations all collide. The couple separated in 2008 and finalized their divorce in 2010.